In the heart of Paris, where the rain mingled with the glimmer of golden street lamps on cobblestone alleys, Karoline Leavitt stepped out into the twilight on what was meant to be a celebratory evening. It was her 76th birthday, a milestone marked by decades of resilience and quiet dignity, yet also by a series of quiet, painful exclusions that had shaped her life. That day, she had promised herself one small indulgence: a visit to Bel Air, the most exclusive luxury boutique on Avenue Montaigne, renowned for its dazzling displays and clientele of movie stars, aristocrats, and tycoons. Karoline's journey to Bel Air had been a deliberate, almost ritualistic act, a quest to finally reward herself after a lifetime of hard work and self-sacrifice. Dressed in a modest yet carefully chosen outfit, a simple classic black dress that hinted at her timeless elegance rather than opulence, paired with comfortable shoes and a neatly styled silver bun, she looked every bit the woman who had weathered storms both literal and metaphorical. Yet, beneath her composed exterior, a tremor of anticipation mingled with the fear of rejection. As she approached the imposing facade of Bel Air, its polished glass windows and gold-trimmed doors seemed to promise not just luxury, but an exclusive admission to an inner world reserved for those who sparkled with outward signs of wealth. However, upon reaching the door, Karoline was greeted not by a warm welcome, but by a terse dismissal. A tall, impeccably dressed doorman, whose name tag, though small, declared him Vincent, cast a scrutinizing gaze over her. His eyes took in the traces of travel on her face, the gentle creases that spoke of years of laughter and hardship, and the unadorned quality of her attire. Without waiting for her to utter a greeting, he uttered a few measured words that sealed her fate for that evening, a polite yet unmistakably condescending suggestion that she might consider a less exclusive venue, a tourist shop by the river. In that moment, the rain began to fall in earnest, each droplet echoing the sting of humiliation. Karoline felt an old ache, one that had accompanied her through years of being judged not by her character or the quiet strength of her achievements, but by the superficial standards of luxury and appearance. The rejection was not merely an inconvenience on a birthday. It was a reminder of every time the world had declared her unworthy, every time a door had closed simply because she did not fit the narrow, glittering mold of what luxury should look like. Inside her, memories stirred, the long nights of whispered doubts, the silent acceptance of exclusion in settings where her very presence was deemed an anomaly. Yet even as she turned away, head held high with a quiet dignity that belied the hurt in her heart, a spark was ignited. This spark was not of anger, but of a resolve born from years of understanding that true worth transcends appearances. On that rainy evening, while Paris's elite continued their oblivious shopping within the hallowed halls of Bel Air, Karoline left behind more than just a building's threshold. She left behind a symbol of an outdated, unyielding hierarchy. As she wandered away along the rain-slicked sidewalk, each step echoed with both the sorrow of exclusion and the promise of transformation. The Paris night, with its muted neon and whispered secrets, bore witness to her silent vow that no one, not even a woman of her modest means and quiet strength, should ever be made to feel less worthy by society fixated on appearances. In the solitude of her departure, the rain seemed to wash away not just the grime of the city, but the residue of a lifetime of neglect, a prelude to the revolution that was to come. In the quiet moments before she reached her modest hotel, Karoline paused beneath the glow of a street lamp. Her eyes, reflecting the myriad droplets of rain, held the weight of countless memories, of times when dignity was denied, and when small acts of exclusion left scars that took years to heal. Yet, in that luminous instant, there was also a profound clarity. She recognized that the world had been slow to understand that luxury, at its truest, was not measured by the price of one's attire or the sheen of one's possessions, but by the richness of one's character and the depth of one's humanity. That night, as she sat by the window in her humble room overlooking the winding streets of Paris, Karoline allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. Tears mingled with the remnants of rain as she reflected on the closed doors of her past, doors that had rejected her for reasons as trivial as the fabric of her clothes. Yet, with each tear, a determination grew. She resolved that this rejection would not be the end of her story. Rather, it would serve as the catalyst for a movement that would redefine what it meant to be truly luxurious. In the silence of that lonely hour, while the city outside hummed with the routine cadence of life, a plan began to take shape in her mind. A vision of a new kind of luxury. A luxury that embraced authenticity, valued character over currency, and celebrated diversity in every form. Karoline's heart beat with the rhythm of possibility as she thought of all those who had ever been sidelined, overlooked, or dismissed because they did not conform to the narrow definitions of worth. This was the beginning of a journey to reclaim dignity and to open doors that had long been shut by prejudice and superficiality. In the days that followed her fateful encounter at Bel Air, Karoline Leavitt found herself immersed in a torrent of recollections and reflections that spanned the entirety of her life. The memory of that rainy evening, of the cold dismissal at the door of a luxury store, gnawed at her with an intensity that both pained and galvanized her spirit. Late into the night, as the city of Paris slumbered beneath a velvet sky punctuated by the distant hum of traffic and the occasional clatter of rain against window panes, Karoline sat at her desk. By the soft light of a solitary lamp she began to write. A series of long, heartfelt journal entries that detailed not only her personal history of exclusion and resilience, but also her burgeoning vision for a more inclusive world. Her mind wandered back to the formative years of her youth, a time when modest means were the norm, and every small achievement was hard-won against a backdrop of systemic indifference. She recalled the early days of her career, when every promotion, every accolade, came with the bitter aftertaste of being underestimated, overlooked because she did not fit the stereotypical image of success. In a world where appearances often dictated opportunities, Karoline had learned to rely on her inner strength and unyielding determination. Yet the scars of those early rejections had never truly healed. They festered quietly beneath the surface, waiting for an opportunity to transform pain into purpose. As she pored over her memories, one particular incident stood out, a moment in her early 30s when she had walked into a high-end boutique in New York. Much like the incident in Paris, the staff had looked past her confident smile and distinguished presence, fixated instead on the simplicity of her attire. The sting of that encounter had been raw and unexpected, and it had planted a seed of discontent in her heart. That seed, watered over the years by both personal hardship and moments of quiet revelation, had grown into a robust conviction, the need to redefine luxury itself. Karoline began to formulate a radical idea. Why should the ability to experience beauty, quality, and craftsmanship be the privilege of a select few? Why should the gates of the finest establishments remain closed to those who, through no fault of their own, did not mirror the conventional image of wealth? With every line she wrote, her conviction deepened. She envisioned a world where luxury was reimagined, a world where the barriers between the haves and have-nots were softened, where quality and excellence were available to all who appreciated them, regardless of their outward appearance or bank balance. Her writings evolved into a manifesto, an impassioned call for a new paradigm in luxury retail. In her vision, the transformation of a single prestigious boutique could ripple outward, challenging entrenched norms and inspiring change across an entire industry. This was not a simple matter of rebranding or a fleeting trend. It was a revolution of the spirit, one that sought to honor the dignity of every individual. Karoline envisioned a future in which each customer would be greeted not with suspicion or disdain, but with warmth, respect, and a genuine acknowledgement of their intrinsic worth. As the ink flowed across the pages, she detailed plans that bordered on the audacious. She would acquire a flagship luxury store, one that had long epitomized exclusivity and the unyielding standards of superficial opulence, and transform it into a sanctuary of inclusiveness. Under her stewardship, the store would retain its commitment to quality and refined craftsmanship, yet it would also become a space where the traditional markers of wealth were replaced by criteria of character, contribution, and community service. Within the hallowed halls of Bel Air, transformation began to take root. The luxurious interiors, with their polished marble floors and ornate displays, remained a testament to the store's storied heritage. Yet, behind the scenes, significant changes were underway. Karoline introduced a pioneering concept, a community collection, that would reserve a portion of the inventory for individuals who contributed to society in meaningful ways: teachers, nurses, first responders, social workers, and single parents. These special items, while retaining the high standards of quality that Bel Air was known for, would be offered at a reduced price through an innovative, dignified verification process. Rather than subjecting customers to invasive questioning at the door, a discreet online system would confirm their eligibility, ensuring that the experience remained respectful and empowering. As the transformation progressed, Karoline made it a point to personally engage with both the staff and the clientele. She spent hours walking the polished aisles of Bel Air, speaking with employees and listening to the whispered grievances and aspirations of longtime customers. Her presence, gentle yet commanding, infused the store with an air of hope. For many, she became not just an owner, but a mentor, a symbol of what it meant to rise above societal judgments and embrace a broader, more compassionate view of success. One particularly poignant moment occurred during a staff meeting in the early morning hours. Vincent, the same man who had once barred her from entering the store, sat in the back, his face a mixture of regret and determination. In a heartfelt confession that resonated with everyone present, he admitted the flaws of his previous approach. "I have spent my career keeping people out," he murmured, voice trembling with remorse, "but I now see that I must learn how to welcome them in." His words, raw and sincere, were met with silence and then, gradually, with nods of understanding from his colleagues. This admission was more than just a personal transformation. It was emblematic of the shift that Karoline envisioned, a movement where every individual, regardless of background or appearance, would be treated with the respect they inherently deserved. Outside the polished windows of Bel Air, Paris itself seemed to respond to the winds of change. Whispers spread among the city's inhabitants, stories of a luxury store that had broken free from the chains of exclusivity, of a visionary leader who was reimagining what it meant to be truly refined. Journalists and social commentators began to take note, drawn by the paradox of maintaining an aura of high-end sophistication while simultaneously dismantling the very hierarchies that had once defined it. Inside, the store's transformation was unfolding like a carefully choreographed ballet. Designers were invited to collaborate on the community collection, each piece imbued with the ethos of inclusion and empathy. In a series of intimate meetings, renowned fashion houses and independent artisans alike shared their personal journeys, stories of how, before they found success, they too had been judged harshly for their modest beginnings. These sessions not only enriched the creative process but also fostered an environment where every contribution was celebrated as part of a collective effort to redefine luxury. Karoline also introduced an innovative Dignity Committee, a body composed of employees from every level of the organization, tasked with monitoring interactions and ensuring that every guest experienced a warm, genuine welcome. The committee's mandate was clear: to uphold a new standard of behavior, one that prioritized kindness over conformity and empathy over elitism. Through regular training, feedback sessions, and even role-playing exercises, the staff was encouraged to challenge their own biases and to see every customer as a valued human being, not merely as a potential sale or a reflection of an exclusive club. As weeks turned into months, the changes at Bel Air began to bear fruit, not only in the transformed atmosphere within its walls, but also in the broader impact on the community. Customers who had once felt invisible began to visit the store, not out of a desire to flaunt wealth, but to experience a sense of belonging. Stories emerged of a single mother finding the perfect accessory for a long overdue celebration, of a dedicated teacher discovering a timeless piece that felt like a reward for years of quiet sacrifice, and of a retired nurse who, for the first time in years, felt seen and appreciated. Each anecdote was a testament to the fact that luxury, reimagined through the lens of dignity, could become a powerful agent of social healing. In every corner of Bel Air, the echoes of transformation were palpable. The once sterile, judgmental space was now infused with warmth and purpose. Floral arrangements that once served as mere decorative accents were replaced with vibrant displays symbolizing renewal and hope. The lighting, carefully recalibrated to create an inviting ambiance, seemed to illuminate not just the exquisite merchandise but the very souls of those who entered. And at the center of it all, Karoline Leavitt moved gracefully among her staff and guests, a living embodiment of the change she had long envisioned, a woman who had transformed her own painful past into a beacon of possibility for countless others. As Bel Air's doors opened anew to a diverse array of customers, the reverberations of Karoline Leavitt's transformative vision began to extend far beyond the gilded walls of the once exclusive boutique. Paris, a city known for its storied traditions and rigid social hierarchies, found itself at the epicenter of a quietly unfolding revolution. Word of the new Bel Air, a luxury store that had shed its elitist past in favor of inclusivity and respect, spread like wildfire across the city and beyond. Reporters, bloggers, and social media influencers, intrigued by the audacity of the change, flocked to capture every nuance of this bold experiment. In cafes and on busy boulevards, Parisians discussed the metamorphosis of a symbol that had long represented the stark divide between wealth and everyday dignity. The transformation of Bel Air was not just a local phenomenon. It had become a rallying cry for anyone who had ever felt marginalized or undervalued. Stories began to surface. Stories of young teachers, healthcare workers, single parents, and even retirees, each recounting their own experiences of being sidelined by an unforgiving standard of beauty and status. These personal narratives, shared in earnest conversations and through the digital lens of social media, galvanized a growing movement that sought to redefine luxury in terms of human connection and shared values. As the movement gathered momentum, other luxury brands found themselves compelled to re-examine their own practices. Invitations to speak at industry conferences, panel discussions, and televised interviews poured in for Karoline Leavitt. At these events, she spoke with a measured passion, recounting not only her personal journey of rejection and resilience, but also the broader societal implications of a system that judged individuals by their appearance rather than their inner worth. True luxury, she would say, is not about flashing wealth or exclusive labels. It is about creating spaces where every human being feels seen, respected, and valued. Her words resonated deeply with audiences who, tired of the old order, yearned for a more compassionate approach to beauty and success. In one memorable television interview broadcast to millions across the globe, Karoline recounted the moment of her rejection at Bel Air. With a calm yet impassioned tone, she described the shock of being turned away on her birthday, the sting of indignity that followed, and the realization that such experiences were far too common for those who did not fit society's narrow mold. The interview sparked a tidal wave of social media responses. Hashtags celebrating dignity and inclusion trended for days, and ordinary people began to share their own accounts of feeling invisible in a world preoccupied with appearances. The digital sphere buzzed with messages of solidarity, empathy, and calls for change. As the movement spread, alliances were forged between Karoline and like-minded visionaries from diverse fields. Prominent designers, ethical fashion advocates, and community organizers reached out to collaborate on projects that would further the cause of inclusive luxury. They envisioned not only a network of reformed retail spaces but also a comprehensive social initiative that would extend the principles of dignity and respect to every corner of society. Fundraising galas, art exhibitions celebrating the beauty of diversity, and workshops dedicated to combating unconscious bias became regular features on the cultural calendar. Karoline's vision extended far beyond the confines of a single building. She imagined an entire movement, a network of institutions, from high-end boutiques to upscale restaurants and even luxury hotels, that would embrace a philosophy of dignity and accessibility. In her carefully penned words, she described how a portion of each sale could be reinvested into community programs, supporting single parents, educators, healthcare workers, and those who worked tirelessly to make the world a better place. Moreover, she outlined plans for an innovative verification system that would allow deserving individuals to access special collections at reduced prices without the humiliating process of being scrutinized for their attire. Her heart swelled with both nostalgia and hope as she recalled the faces of those who had suffered silently under the weight of exclusion. The tired eyes of a single mother juggling multiple jobs, the quiet resignation of a dedicated nurse, the stoic determination of a teacher striving to inspire despite limited resources. To Karoline, each of these faces was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and she vowed that her revolution would honor them by creating a space where every person could feel welcome. In the solitude of her study, as the first light of dawn began to soften the Parisian skyline, Karoline's vision crystallized into a definitive plan. She would not simply protest against a broken system, she would build an alternative that exemplified the very values she held dear. With meticulous care, she drafted proposals for new operating policies, training regimens for staff that emphasized empathy and respect, and a bold marketing campaign that celebrated the beauty of diversity and the strength of character. Every word, every idea was imbued with the conviction that luxury, when redefined, could become a powerful force for social change. The manifesto she created was more than a business proposal. It was a clarion call for dignity, a blueprint for transforming not only a store, but the very ethos of an industry. In its pages, she envisioned a future where the shimmering facade of exclusivity would give way to a vibrant tapestry of humanity, where the trappings of wealth would be secondary to the richness of experience and the value of compassion. Karoline Leavitt's heart, once bruised by the coldness of rejection, now beat with the promise of renewal, a promise to open doors that had long been shut by prejudice and to create a legacy of inclusivity that would endure for generations. As the morning light bathed her study in a gentle glow, Karoline closed her journal with a resolute finality. The pain of the past was transforming into a powerful resolve for the future. With each carefully written word, she had laid the foundation for what would become a revolutionary project, a project that would challenge the status quo and redefine the very essence of luxury. In that quiet, transformative moment, the seeds of change had been sown, and a new chapter in her life's work was about to unfold. With the clarity of her newfound purpose resonating in every fiber of her being, Karoline Leavitt set her plan into motion. The first decisive step was to acquire the flagship luxury store, Bel Air, a name that for decades had evoked images of exclusivity, opulence, and a rigid adherence to a narrow definition of worth. Now, under her stewardship, Bel Air would become the crucible for a new era in luxury retail, one that celebrated authenticity and inclusivity over superficial status symbols. The acquisition process was a blend of meticulous strategy and heartfelt determination. Karoline assembled a team of trusted advisors, seasoned business strategists, and passionate social advocates who shared her vision. Their mission was clear: to preserve the store's legacy of exceptional quality and craftsmanship, while dismantling the barriers that had long kept its doors closed to those deemed unworthy by conventional standards. Detailed negotiations unfolded over long, contemplative evenings in quiet boardrooms where every clause of the purchase agreement was scrutinized not just for fiscal prudence, but for its potential to serve as a vehicle for social change. Upon finalizing the purchase, Karoline took immediate steps to reshape the internal culture of Bel Air. She initiated comprehensive training programs aimed at dismantling ingrained biases among the staff. Every employee, from the doorman, who had once epitomized the rigid gatekeeping of elitism, to the sales associates who greeted customers with a practiced but impersonal smile, was enrolled in sessions designed to foster empathy, understanding, and an unwavering commitment to dignity. These sessions were not mere corporate training. They were soul-searching workshops where personal stories were shared, prejudices confronted, and a new collective identity forged. One particularly impactful collaboration emerged with a group of grassroots community leaders in a historically underprivileged district of Paris. Here, a pop-up version of the Community Collection was launched, a temporary yet powerful experiment that brought the ideals of Bel Air directly to those who had long been denied access to luxury. In a converted warehouse space adorned with murals celebrating resilience and hope, residents were invited to explore a curated selection of high-quality items at prices that respected their budgets. For many, it was the first time they had stepped into a space that did not judge them by the price of their clothes, but by the richness of their lives. The event was a resounding success, and the impact was immediate. People left not only with beautiful possessions, but with a renewed sense of self-worth and possibility. Across Europe, the ripple effects of Karoline's movement began to be felt. In Milan, London, and even as far afield as Tokyo and Dubai, luxury retailers took note of the paradigm shift initiated by Bel Air. Some embraced the change wholeheartedly, adapting their practices to incorporate elements of inclusivity and community engagement. Others, initially resistant, found themselves pressured by a new generation of consumers who demanded that luxury be redefined not by exclusivity, but by the ethical treatment of all people. Business journals and academic institutions started to analyze what came to be known as the Leavitt effect, a measurable boost in brand loyalty and overall sales, driven by a model that balanced high-end quality with a profound commitment to social responsibility. Within Bel Air itself, the transformation was ongoing and dynamic. Regular training sessions, feedback loops, and an ever-present dignity committee ensured that the principles of inclusion remained at the forefront of every interaction. Employees, once wary of change, now took pride in being ambassadors of a new ethos. Vincent, who had once embodied the rigid gatekeeping of the past, emerged as one of the most ardent advocates for the new policy. His own journey, from a man steeped in exclusionary practices to one who actively volunteered in community shelters and mentored new staff, became a testament to the power of personal growth and redemption. For Karoline, the success of Bel Air was deeply personal. Every heartfelt thank you from a customer who had once felt invisible, every story of newfound confidence among a community member, reaffirmed her belief that true luxury was measured not in monetary terms, but in the dignity and respect afforded to every individual. As invitations to expand the model into new markets and industries began to arrive, she remained steadfast in her commitment. The vision was clear: to create a world where every door, once closed by prejudice and superficial judgment, would be flung wide open in the name of compassion and inclusivity. In the end, the movement that began with one woman's painful rejection had blossomed into a global call for change. The reformed concept of luxury, anchored in authenticity, empathy, and the celebration of human worth, had the power to transcend the confines of retail, inspiring transformations in education, healthcare, public service, and beyond. The legacy of Bel Air, reimagined under Karoline Leavitt's visionary leadership, was not merely in the elegant merchandise on display, but in the countless lives that had been touched, uplifted, and empowered by its revolutionary approach. In the months and years that followed the reformation of Bel Air, Karoline Leavitt's visionary project matured into a legacy that transcended the boundaries of commerce and transformed the very fabric of society. Bel Air, once a bastion of exclusion and superficial glamour, had become a living monument to the power of dignity, respect, and reinvention. As the seasons changed over Paris, the store evolved in step with the growing movement that now bore her name, a movement that was as much about restoring human worth as it was about selling exquisite products. The renewed Bel Air continued to serve as the epicenter of a broader revolution, a beacon that attracted attention not only from consumers but also from scholars, policymakers, and cultural leaders. Academic institutions began incorporating case studies on the Leavitt model into their business and ethics curricula, examining how a radical shift in customer service and corporate philosophy could yield both financial success and profound social impact. Conferences dedicated to inclusive luxury were held in major cities around the globe, where industry veterans and emerging innovators debated and celebrated the ways in which Karoline's vision had challenged the status quo. Within Bel Air, the legacy was being celebrated daily in the smallest of moments. The store's layout had been subtly reimagined. An airy, spiraling staircase led to a second-floor atelier where local artisans from marginalized communities showcased their work alongside internationally renowned designers. This atelier, bathed in natural light and adorned with vibrant works of art, symbolized the harmonious fusion of heritage and innovation, a space where traditional craftsmanship met the raw, untapped talent of those who had once been overlooked. The impact of the transformation was most profoundly felt among the people whose lives had been uplifted by the new policies. In a modest corner of the store, a display commemorated personal stories of transformation. There were handwritten letters and photographs from a single mother who, after years of feeling invisible, finally found the courage to pursue her dreams, from a retired teacher whose renewed self-esteem led her to mentor young students, and from a young firefighter who, with his community card in hand, celebrated not just a purchase, but a moment of recognition and pride. Each story was a powerful reminder that the true measure of luxury was not the sheen of expensive materials, but the glow of human spirit and dignity. Karoline herself became a symbol, a living legend whose own journey from humiliation to empowerment resonated with people far beyond the confines of the retail world. In interviews and public appearances, she spoke of the painful moments of rejection that had once threatened to break her, and of the hard-won wisdom that had taught her to see beyond the superficial. I learned early on that no one should ever be defined by what they wear or how they appear, she would say, her voice both tender and resolute. Luxury is not a privilege reserved for the few. It is a right, an expression of our collective humanity. Her words, delivered with the quiet authority of one who had seen both the darkness and the light, inspired countless individuals to challenge their own assumptions and to work toward a more inclusive society. The transformation of Bel Air had far-reaching economic and cultural ramifications as well. Business leaders who had once dismissed the idea of socially responsible luxury were now eager to learn from Karoline's model. New startups and established brands alike began to integrate principles of inclusivity into their operations, recognizing that a commitment to dignity could drive both profitability and positive social change. The movement had become a paradigm shift, a ripple that spread from the polished surfaces of a luxury boutique to the very core of how society defined success and worth. Yet amid the accolades and the growing influence of her ideas, Karoline remained humble. She continued to walk the streets of Paris with the same quiet determination that had once propelled her away from a door slammed in her face. Every interaction, whether with a loyal customer or a curious stranger, was an opportunity to reaffirm the values that had sparked her revolution. Her daily routines, quiet morning walks along the Seine, afternoons spent reading letters from those touched by Bel Air's transformation, and evenings in reflection, were all infused with a deep sense of purpose. She knew that the journey toward a more inclusive world was far from over, but she also believed that every small act of kindness and every instance of respectful recognition added up to create a legacy that would endure. In one particularly moving moment, during an anniversary celebration at Bel Air, Karoline stood before an audience of hundreds, comprising customers, employees, community leaders, and media representatives alike. The room was filled with a palpable energy, a collective heartbeat of hope and transformation. With a gentle smile and eyes that shone with both wisdom and compassion, she recounted the story of that fateful rainy night in Paris, the night when a closed door had ignited a fire within her. "That night," she said softly, "I realized that my worth could never be measured by the opinions of those who refused to see me. Instead, I chose to build a future where every person is celebrated for who they truly are." The applause that followed was not merely polite. It was a resounding affirmation from a community that had been uplifted, healed, and empowered by her vision. As the celebration drew to a close, Karoline's thoughts turned to the future. Plans were already underway to expand the principles of Bel Air to other industries. Luxury hotels that would redefine hospitality by treating every guest with genuine warmth, high-end restaurants that would honor both culinary excellence and the dignity of their staff, and even exclusive clubs that would welcome members from all walks of life without the barriers of elitism. The ripple effect of her work was undeniable, and it inspired others to dream of a world where the trappings of wealth were secondary to the human capacity for kindness and inclusion. In the quiet after the celebration, as she walked along a moonlit street lined with old, familiar buildings, Karoline reflected on the profound changes that had taken place, not only in a store or an industry, but in the hearts and minds of people everywhere. The legacy of Bel Air was not measured in dollars or accolades, but in the renewed sense of self-worth experienced by those who had long been overlooked. It was a living testament to the idea that true luxury is the ability to see and honor the inherent dignity in every human being. Standing beneath a sky scattered with stars, Karoline felt a deep, abiding peace. She knew that while the journey was ongoing, every door opened, every life touched, was a step toward a more just and compassionate world. In that moment, the once humbling rejection had been transformed into a powerful beacon of renewal, a legacy that would inspire generations to come.